Good evening. In the scripture, God brings the prophet Ezekiel to a valley and asks, "Can these bones live?" God breathes life into what seemed hopeless. It is a story about revival, courage, and God rewriting expectations. You might not know this about me, but I am a huge sports fan and a former. Who would have known, right? I was also a collegiate and semi-pro softball player. And growing up, my mother's side of the family were athletes. My grandmother was a competitive ice speed skater. That is one thing I did not inherit from her. I did it once, and keyword is once. I could roller skate, so maybe there was a little something there. My grandfather was a multi-sport athlete, very high level. He was a professional baseball player. He played for the minor league and the major league New York Yankees. He finally made it up to the big Yankees, and he was hit by a pitch. He was a pitcher. He was hit by a batted ball, and that ruined his career. So he moved on to taking care of his family. My mother followed in his footsteps. She played volleyball, basketball, and softball. Now, she played in a time of basketball where women had to play half-court basketball because it was believed that it was too dangerous and too much for a woman to run full-court basketball, which is kind of interesting, right? I followed in her footsteps. I played volleyball, softball, and basketball, but I was allowed to play full-court basketball. So we made some progress there, moving on. So it's considering the athletes in my family, it's no surprise that I, too, was an athlete. My brother, he was also an athlete. He played baseball. He was very good playing baseball as well. My mother taught me all that I know about sports. She took me out, she worked with me, she taught me how to play softball, she taught me how to play volleyball, basketball, and her and my father would go to work, and they would come home, and they would take my brother and I out after work. And for a few hours, we'd go across the street to where the elementary school was, in the schoolyard, and my mother would pitch to me, slow pitch, and then my dad would pitch to my brother, fast pitch for baseball, and we would finish doing that, and I would convince my dad, I could convince my dad because he loved me, to pitch to me baseball. And of course, I would take my brother's bat and I would hit the baseballs, right? Because I wanted to play baseball. So my mother signed me up for playing girls' little league, softball when I was 5 years old. I was really young. She was my coach, and my father was her assistant coach. So she coached many of my little league softball teams. And when I was playing, I loved softball, but I really loved baseball. And I wanted to play baseball. And I would play, with the kids in the neighborhood, and we would be in our backyard and have these epic baseball games there and in the schoolyard. We had to stop doing playing with the real baseball when we broke the neighbor's window. We had to move to tennis balls for that. But I always felt that I wanted to play baseball, and I wanted to prove to, myself and to others that I was just as good as the boys playing. And so I faced my own valley because the rules said no, and the culture at that time said girls don't do that. My dream of playing baseball with the boys looked impossible, but I pestered my mother for many years to play baseball with them. My dream of playing baseball was like those bones, waiting for someone to speak life over it. When I was 12 years old, something powerful happened. My mother, I think she was tired of me pestering her, contacted the league officials. She spoke up, advocated for me, and challenged the rules. My mother did what Ezekiel did. She spoke life into something others had declared impossible. The rules shifted and the door opened. It was then that I was allowed to play in the South Daytona Little League Baseball with the boys. Now it was up to me to prove that girls could handle playing baseball and play just as good as the boys. It was up to me, so I went out there and I was an immediate starter. I played third base, I played shortstop, and I was a relief pitcher. A local newspaper writer from the Daytona Beach News Journal heard about me, being the first girl to play Little League Baseball, and wrote an article in the newspaper, which that's me right there. Yes, this is not too long ago, so, although, you know, I didn't need glasses at that time. So when I finished playing baseball with this league, there were other girls who signed up for the league the following years. So it was a trendsetter. I was happy to know that I set a path for some other girls to follow and make some dreams, and my mother helped that too. I returned to softball, and when I was in high school, my former teammates from this league, they asked me to play on the baseball team in high school. And so the men's baseball team was horrible. They were really bad. The softball team was much better, but the baseball team was not good. So they said to their coach, "Hey, we need Debbie on the team." So the coach said, "Okay, yeah, let's get Debbie. Let's bring her on. I'll talk to the school district, see what can happen." My mom said, "Okay, go ahead." And they talked to the school district. Unfortunately, the school district said no. They said that if there was an equivalent for females, that I had to play that. Now, slow pitch softball and baseball are not the same. They're not equivalent, but a lawyer would have had to determine that. We just did not have the funding for a lawyer at that time. So I went back and just stayed playing softball in high school, and I was also playing on multiple traveling teams. I played third base, and if anybody knows baseball, you need to have an edge to play that position. As it's such a short distance to the batter, then that ball comes extremely fast. And I'm sure if there were some x-rays on my shins, you would see that there's some old fractures from the balls hitting me there. You have to have very quick reflexes, and you have to have a lot of courage to play that particular position. As a junior, I was projected to be an all-conference, all-state player, and had college scouts who were interested in me playing for their college, third base for their college. However, we had a new high school coach, and she wanted to move me to the outfield because I had a very strong arm. When I was 13 years old, I was clocked at throwing the baseball at 63 miles per hour. So she felt that me playing in the outfield was best for our team. My mother and I did not feel that that was best for my future career. And so I needed my mother to advocate for me again. She called another high school that was nearby, and this brought great stress and fear because for me to go to college, I needed to get a scholarship. So she called another high school and said, "Well, we'll transfer you to a different high school." And they said, "Yeah, sure, we'll take her. She can have third base all to herself." Unfortunately, the school district said no. At that time, they did not allow you to choose a high school. You could not just go to another high school. You had to stay at the high school that you were in that particular district. So, needless to say, my mother and I did not care for this high school coach, but we had to go and do this. I had to learn a totally new position, and my mother worked with me to do that as well. And I did get a college scholarship, and I was an outfielder. And yes, I could throw people out at home plate from the fence. So, but God had different plans for me, right? I struck out being able to play in high school baseball. I struck out playing third base, but God had a different plan for me. And that was playing the outfield. The college that I went to was the top junior college in the state of Florida. We had won multiple different conferences and state championships and national championships throughout their illustrious career, from the college when they had the inception of the softball team from 1971. So it was a top school. We used to play universities. We used to play the University of Florida, go Gators, and we used to beat them regularly. We played Florida State University, who at that time were the national softball champions for the entire country. We beat them a couple of times. So we were a very good junior college. After college, when my collegiate playing days were over, I was the assistant softball coach there. We won the national championship when I was a player and when I was an assistant softball coach. After college, I played on some semi-professional softball teams, and when I moved to Fort Lauderdale, I played in a women's baseball team, or baseball league. I had a dream, and God used a human voice, my mother, to awaken God-given dreams by breathing life into those closed doors and breaking the barriers put forth by people who believed that girls were not talented enough to play baseball with the boys. This also holds for other sports. There have been women banned from playing running in marathons because ignorant people, believed that women's organs would fall out if they ran a marathon. So, yeah. Yeah, so this is the kind of silliness that was going on. So a historical account, in 1943, the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, which was depicted in the movie A League of Their Own, was created. Even though the groundbreaking league was in existence for 11 years, women were still not allowed or limited with playing sports. It has taken 72 years, but fortunately things have changed, and in August of this year, a new women's professional baseball league will start. Thankfully, God gave me a wonderful mother who believed in me and advocated for me and spent many hours teaching me how to play so I could fulfill my dream. And to this day, my friend, whose father was my Little League baseball coach, still tells me his father had told him many times, Debbie is the best Little League baseball player he has ever seen. And I want to thank him for taking a chance and drafting me. Thank you.